Hello, welcome to Deb's Kitchen. Tonight I'm going to prepare for you some simple, delicious carne guisada. What that basically means is stewed meat. And it's a dish that was originated in the Puerto Rico and Tex-Mex type of dish. So we have in front of us about 2.5 pounds of, I already got mine. You're required to use chuck roast, but I already got mine cut up because it makes it simple. And we do simple in Deb's Kitchen, but if you don't, you can buy a chuck roast and cut it up into little strips and spend a half an hour on that. These are our simple ingredients for today's carne guisada, and I'm going to be I'm going to be making a beef broth. I have some hot tomato sauce. You can use regular if you like. I have cumin, some chili pepper. This is Gebhardt's, I like that. Pepper, we're going to be using 1 bell pepper, 3 tomatoes, 3 cloves of garlic, about a medium onion, and some flour to make our gravy. Because beef guisada usually is like a stewed beef and gravy. That's what carne guisada means. So let's get started. But here we are. I have some lard, because lard is what makes Mexican food good. And a skillet. I've already put about 2 tablespoons of lard in there. And I'm going to brown my meat now. I have it fairly high because I want it to get caramelized. So I have it kind of medium high. You want to hear that sizzle. You know, in Deb's Kitchen I tweak things. So I'm bringing a poblano pepper to the party. I researched several recipes and it's not a typical ingredient, but I decided to add it. I had it when I tested it out, and I said I'm going to try it with that, and it came out delicious. So we're going to put our spices on. This calls for cumin, calls for a teaspoon of cumin, but I do not like heavy cumin. But if you like cumin, you can put the teaspoon. I'm just going to eyeball it because I know how much I want. That's probably about a half a teaspoon. Of course, I'm going to put pepper on it, black pepper. This is cracked black pepper. And then we're going to brown it till it's totally brown and caramelized, and we'll be right back. I just turned my heat back up to high because, as you can see, the meat is releasing its natural juices, and we want this to end up being very crispy caramelized before we proceed with our recipe. So you just keep turning it a few times, and once this liquid evaporates, that's when the action starts. It starts frying, and at that time we might turn our heat down. Okay, while our meat's cooking over there, we're going to prepare our vegetables. And this recipe typically calls for bell pepper. So I've cut off the top, then I'm going to cut it in half, and you're going to see, you can take out this membrane. You really don't want that in your stew. But my way of doing this is just simple. I will turn it over, and I want to make it chunks, so I'm just going to cut it. Try to stack it if you can. And then we're going to dice it into just little dice, because this will all dissipate during the cooking process. We want to try to get it fairly small because we don't want our meat to have big chunks of vegetables. So it's just, I would normally do this in my food processor and it would take 2 seconds. But I'm doing it by hand because not everybody has food processors. So I want you to see how it's done. So I'm just going to dice all this up. Next, it calls for 3 cloves of garlic. So I'm going to use my simple trick. I get a mallet and I break the garlic cloves off. You know how hard they are to take apart. And I get my 3 garlic. You can put more garlic if you like more garlic, but, well, maybe I'll put 4. Anyway, you get your garlic, and I have found this little, well, let me cut off the ends. because you don't want that little woody end on. So make sure you cut off that little hard stem at the end, because someone doesn't want to break their teeth on that. So I have these garlic here, and I found this handy dandy tool on Amazon to mash your garlic. So you just basically have to put some elbow grease, see how that is? Breaks down your garlic and it comes through the holes. But I'm just trying, I don't care if it sticks because I'm going to put it in the pan. So I'm basically breaking up 3 pieces of garlic. And then that's going to go in the mix. If you don't have this little tool for your garlic and you have a garlic press, that'll work too. Or you can just dice it. So now I'm going to have 3 Roma tomatoes. And what I'm doing is cutting them the top off, the stem. And these I want to cut in strips, because I like the way strips look in it. When my mom used to make this, something similar to this, I never got the recipe from her because I never paid attention. We just knew that we liked her steak, and it had a gravy and it had like these tomato strips in it. So the recipe calls for it to be diced, but I'm doing it how I remember it. And I already have a diced onion, so I'm not going to demonstrate. I'm sure you all know how to dice an onion. If not, I've demonstrated in many videos. Just go look at the other ones and you'll find out. Okay, if you can see, all the liquids disappeared already, and you see the grease coming back. So now our meat's going to start turning brown, because it's going to be in direct contact with the pan, and that's going to caramelize your meat. Don't take it out right now, because we want to get some brownness on it, because that caramelization is going to give your carne guisada a delicious taste. Take it to the next level. You can see that our meat's well on its way to caramelization. But this time I'm going to put about a teaspoon of garlic salt. And I use Lawry's. Don't salt it too much right now, because I always tell you what, you can always put more in, but you can't take it off. So we'll just put enough to give it a little flavor right now. And then when it's cooked, about 45 minutes, we're going to taste it. And at that time, if we think it needs more salt, we will add regular salt. You can see all this goodness on the bottom. We want this. We are going to, that's why I'm going to transfer this meat into another pan, because I'm going to saute my vegetables in here. We're transferring all our meat out. Just get another pan or something else, dish, whatever you want. I'm adding in a little more oil because, as you can see, the meat, I'm going to turn my heat down first of all to medium, and I'm adding oil because I need to saute my vegetables. And the meat absorbed it all. So first going in is our onion. We want to get that caramelized, and it's going to turn brown as it picks up the bits on the bottom. I'm also going to put in my bell pepper and a poblano pepper at this point. I'm not putting in my tomatoes just yet. Okay, I'm cutting my poblano, and I'm basically going to cut off the stem, and I'm going to cut it and dice it just like I did the bell pepper, because we want it to cook down. And you're going to find that this is a surprising, delicious additional ingredient. Most of the recipes don't have a chili like this, or any chili. It's kind of a stew, but we kick it up in Deb's Kitchen. We don't want it to be boring. So I'm just going to use one because I don't want it to overtake your dish. And I'm going to add it as soon as I finish here. I'm not adding the garlic, which is on here, till the end, because garlic burns fast. Okay, so let's get that poblano in there. And I'm basically going to saute all these vegetables until they soften. Smells good already. This is kind of what you call a sofrito. It's all, or a mirepoix if you would. And it's just a base, a vegetable base for a lot of Latin cooking. Okay, now I'm adding the garlic last. And if you see a little piece of skin in there, just take it out. And I'm going to add this in. You can see how brown everything is. Everything should be soft. And at this point, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of flour, because this is what's going to make our gravy. And we're going to stir this all around to make sure it's well incorporated. And toast. You want to make sure there's no white. You shouldn't be seeing any white flour, because that means you have raw flour. We want it all toasted. I'm going to add beef broth. I'm going to add about 4 teaspoons initially. So I don't want it too salt. And then stir it up. I'm just going to stir it with my fork because my spoon fell on the floor, and you have to improvise in Deb's kitchen. And we're going to add that to we're not going to add it all. We're going to add it in stages. So I just want to get this starting to come together. You see it's already turning gravy-like. As it cooks, it'll be even better. But you want to make sure that bouillon is cooked out. I'm going to add, another thing I'm adding that I didn't see in recipes, they use tomato sauce or they use tomato paste. I'm using hot tomato sauce because it kicks it up. I use a whole can, which is 7 ounces. This is El Pato. You can use any brand you want. I'm going to put some more of my broth in there, because it's pretty thick, and we want it after all to be a stew. So now I'm going to add back in my meat. Make sure you get all the drippings out, and we're just going to turn that until it's well incorporated. Now cumin is a spice. You can use your own discretion. If you love it, put a teaspoon. I'm just putting a sprinkle over the whole meat, and the same with this cracked black pepper. I'm just covering it. Like I said, don't get carried away in the beginning, because you can always add spices once it's cooked a while. And I'm seeing that I need the rest of my liquid, so I'm going to add the rest of this liquid. And my tomatoes. I add the tomatoes last because tomatoes cook fast and I don't want them to be broken down too much. So here it is, folks. The only thing left to do, you can add some hot chili pepper if you like yours hot. And I have this Gebhardt's chili powder, and I think I'm going to add a tablespoon because I like chili. So let's just start with a tablespoon. As in all the other spices, once you cook it 45 minutes, you can test and say, oh, this needs more chili. And then add it at that time and cook it for the rest of the time until it's nice and tender. It's going to take from 1.5 to 2 hours. So we'll see you back in about 45 minutes to check up on our meat. And don't forget, if you like what you're seeing, don't forget to go like and subscribe, share, hit the notification button to make sure that each time I'm in my kitchen, you'll see. And the recipe will be linked in the description. So we'll see you in 45 minutes. Okay, once you see that your meat has started to come to a boil, once it's already all boiling, we're going to cover it. And we're going to turn it down to a low simmer because we want this to go low and slow. Okay, Our carne guisada is ready. It smells delicious. It's stewed, I'm saying, for about 2.5 hours. And now I'm going to try it. It smells delicious. Look at that gravy. All those vegetables broke down in there, and it looks simply delicious. So let's get ourselves a little taquito. This is how I test it. You could have it with a side of rice and beans, and that would be simply delicioso. But let's see, we're going in. That gravy tastes good. You're going to want to make this. It has just the right kick because of that El Paso spicy tomato I use. But if you don't like spicy, just have regular tomato sauce. But I know you're going to enjoy this. And so will your family. God bless you. Have a happy holiday.